Welcome to the Bringing Simplicity podcast, where launches come to life. I'm Judy, the co-host and co-owner of Bringing Simplicity. I've been helping businesses build their launch processes for hypergrowth by simplifying sales and hiring. I'm committed to your success through leveraging your people and systematizing for scale.
I'm Greta, co-host and co-owner of Bringing Simplicity. I've been helping businesses launch successfully for over a decade by multiplying their results through simple processes. I'm a data lover and technology lover who obsesses over every KPI. So grab your laptops and lattes and get ready to launch with simplicity. This week on the podcast, we're talking through a robust, healthy pipeline. If you're not sure what a robust, healthy pipeline is, you will by the end of this podcast. So we're going to talk all things ads, online presence, email marketing, and engaging in those DMs. So get excited. We're talking launches. So super fun fact, we are actually mid-launch today, which honestly, like multiple times that we're recording this podcast, we're probably going to be mid-launch just because in some ways, it feels like we're always launching something for someone, but we specifically are, just a couple days out from an official launch event. And I think when we think about a robust pipeline, we got to watch that really play out and continue to play out right now. And so, I'm excited to talk about every part of the launch, right? Like, I feel like if you're listening and you've listened to multiple episodes and you continue to listen, you're going to hear me say, like, I'm super excited to talk about this today. But when you think about a robust, healthy pipeline, Judy, what is the first thing that you think somebody needs to understand about what it is and how you create it?
Yeah, no, I'm excited to dive into. And you're right, we're absolutely always like in a launch, deep in a launch, midway through, starting one. But I want to say before we dive in is that this episode is for anyone at any point in their business. If you have a pipeline, this is definitely an episode where you're going to want to take notes, probably rewatch it or re-listen, however you're viewing this, because you should always be evaluating your pipeline to see where you need to tweak it and how to maintain it to be quote unquote healthy and what that is. So I'm really excited to dive in. Okay, so back to your question. What are the first things I think about?
That people should think about when they're considering a robust, healthy pipeline?
Yeah. So if you are new in your launch, I will say a robust is getting any leads, probably getting any leads in your industry or your niche, whether it's servicing coaches, servicing SaaS providers, products, whatever that is. If you are, let's say maybe in your second launch or your third launch, a robust pipeline definitely includes leads quantity, of course, but the value and engagement of your leads and making sure there's I would say a steady lead flow. And that goes back to the strategy that we talk about, right? Where it's like, are you posting consistently if you're doing organic? Or if you have ads, are you consistent with how your ads are? Are you reevaluating those all the time? Are you pulling the ones that aren't producing you the best cost per lead, right? You're actually making sure at first that you just have consistency in your actions, because what you measure, you can manage. We just heard that with another client that we have, right? If you don't know, then how are you going to know, oh, next time I need to do 10 Instagram lives because that's where I got, the most traffic from, or I need to run ads this far in advance before my next launch or my next live webinar. What are some things that come to mind for you?
Yeah, it's hard for me to not just like dive directly into the data, because that's like where my mind initially goes when I think of like a robust, healthy pipeline. And it's interesting because you even mentioned the ways of creating a robust, healthy pipeline is varied, right? So some of you may be running ads. You don't have to run ads, but that's a way to add to your pipeline. Some of you are just posting a ton on whatever social media platform of your choice. Some of you are doing heavy email marketing. Some of you are doing a lot of interacting in the DM, and some of you are doing a combination of all of them. So when I think about what goes into a robust, healthy pipeline, and the fact that you said consistency, I think that's my biggest thing too, is like, are you diversifying your sources? Because in a perfect world, you're doing at least two of those. And then are you nurturing? So that might be my only like additional is like, it's one thing to show up, it's another to like nurture and remind. And I think, again, I mean, we're always going to have everything building on each other. Like that goes to your strategy, right? It's so easy to think like, oh, nobody's signing up for my masterclass. They don't want to come. They may not know about it. The algorithm may not have pushed your post yet. They also may have gone to sign up for it, and then a kid started crying and they set their phone down. And the next time they picked it up, they were responding to a text from a teacher. And then the idea of your masterclass disappeared. So it's not just that initial show up. When we think about a pipeline, it's the full process of first exposure to you all the way through to signed client.
And I
So
know
I
you
guess
don't want to go into the data, but I mean, it is important. And it is one thing that we do go into and we do check. One of the first things we evaluate when you come on with us is we do an audit of your current strategy, your launch, your ads, whatever it is, or organic reach, and do say, hey, tell me what you have been doing. And they'll say things like, I have been consistently, right? But no, how many times
yeah.
did you go live? How many times did you post on your story? How many times did you create, post a reel, right? Post content, to your point. And then in different channels. And some would say, I think if you're listening to this call, like, Greta, that's so many, like, how do I know where to start? How do I know that I should do the email marketing thing? How do I know that I should do Instagram? How do I know that I should do meta ads? What would you say to those people who are considering different streams?
Yeah. So what I'm about to say is probably something you haven't heard said this way a lot, because I think a lot of people talk about quote unquote best practices. I was actually just chatting with somebody in the DMs who said the only way we'll be successful with social media is if we're posting multiple times a day. I disagree with that statement. I think that when you are setting up your quote unquote consistency, or you're deciding what platforms you want to be on, the best decision you can make is the one that is able to be maintained by your current schedule and your current lifestyle. So don't set yourself up for failure by saying, I have to post on social media 5 times a day or I won't be successful. Start with, I'm able to create posts for this many days a week, and I'm going to do that. And I'm going to track that I'm actually doing that. Or I know that it takes me 3 hours to write an email. I have a 3 hour block of time. I can write that email to get it out on Sunday. And I'm going to make sure I hold myself to writing that email and getting an email out every week. So I think like, especially as me as like a data person who wants to be like, well, the best practice is if you send an email this many times, you're going to get this many signups. Well, is that going to cause you to burn out? Are you going to hate your life and your business? Like, it's not the right answer, right? So I don't know that that's like a super straightforward. And I think that is another thing that we really talk to our clients about of like, you say you want to launch, this is how much goes into a launch. You say you want to launch at this point in time. Where is the time in your schedule to even go live, to have sales calls, to do X, Y, and Z? And so the more you can base it on reality, the better.
No, agreed. And I just want to point this out, everyone. So Greta just gave some really, really great tips there. And these are tips that we give their clients during audits. And one of the first things we talk about. In fact, we just moved a launch for a client that was trying to launch in September, right, to later because they were not able to fit things into their schedule in order for the launch to be successful in terms. And later on, in a different episode, we'll talk about what is considered a successful launch. But what I think everything that you're saying is, again, measuring, like to point out, like measure how much time you're going to need to do it, right? Schedule it out. And also block it on your schedule would be some things. And you made a really good point. And everyone who's listening or watching, what you're hearing are not things that you don't know. You know these things. And honestly, you're probably telling your clients these things yourself, right? What Greta just said simply is stick to the 2 streams that you're going to commit to. Just like if you would a diet, just like if you would a gym plan, a workout plan, you're not going, like if one plan is like run 3 miles a day, I am not doing that plan. If one plan is like, hey, work out 2 times a week, or like, okay, I can do that. I can work out 45 minutes twice a week. Like I can manage that, right? So the ones that you can also manage, and then also figure out what it is that maybe you can hire to do the things that maybe you don't have the time to do.
Absolutely. And I also think there is a misconception of how much goes into a launch, where even a client who I've launched with a few times before, she was feeling a little bit overwhelmed. It was back to school time. It was less to do with work and more to do with personal stuff. And we also made the decision to push the launch. So I also want to normalize that. It's okay if you have to push launches. Like, it's almost better to push it and do it well than to try to cram it in and do it half. The only like asterisk, because you guys know I love an asterisk, is if you want to run it as a practice time. Then I would say it's fine. Like, if you're okay with having a low show up to your live masterclass because you've never done one and you just want to have an audience, like, sure, do what you can. But for example, she's done it a few times for me. She really likes writing all of her own stuff. And she was like, I think if we push it 2 hours or 2 weeks out, I'll be okay. And I said, okay, well, you know that you have 6 emails to write, right? And she's like, you're right. Let's push it even further. And so if you don't have a checklist of what is needed in terms of a launch, so if you don't know the emails that are required to create a healthy pipeline, if you don't know the nurturing that you should be doing with the people who are registered to make sure that they get there, if you are not aware of what it looks like, the email and text follow up after a live event, we have a checklist that we would be happy to share with you. It'll be in the show notes here, because that will help you to plan out your time. And I love that you said, Judy, but also look at what can you and what are you willing to outsource, right? When you think about our team, we have a team of 5 people who are working a ton of hours to get these huge launches off the ground, right? You know, we're wrapping up another 100K launch this week. It's our third for this client in 3 months. There are a lot of manpower hours that go into that. And so it's also okay to delegate and to take things off your plate.
Yeah, 100%. I love that you stated that it's normal for things to change, right? One of our clients even today was like, does it ever get better? Like, do you ever feel like you're in the flow? And it's like, yeah, but it's a launch flow. It's a different, right? It's not
Yeah.
like a yoga flow. But yes, there is a launch flow. But once you're on that, what Greta and I call the launch train, there's no getting off when Greta and I are on that. So hop on board. We're going full force. Greta, what would you consider, like, if people were like, okay, what are some 3 things that I know I have a robust, and we're just talking about, just if we are just talking about a robust pipeline, what
Yeah,
is
absolutely. So it's obviously different for every platform that we're talking about. So again, I don't want to like bore you with the details, but I think it's important when you're looking at, for example, email marketing. A lot of people will talk about open rates. I have strong feelings about open rates. If you don't know, like Apple and other providers actually like inflate those numbers because they auto open all emails. So if you have a copywriter who's only talking to you about open rates, you want to go ahead and like raise the red flag and move on to the next copywriter. When we're looking at email marketing, we actually want link clicks more. And you might be thinking to yourself, Greta, if I'm looking at link clicks, what does that mean? So if I'm advertising a masterclass, I'm going to look at how many people are actually clicking the link to head to the landing page to book my masterclass. And then if they've already opted in, I want to somehow be able to engage them in the lead up to that masterclass. So I might be including something like a workbook that they would be clicking on to download. I might be asking them to respond to the email with a couple of things that they're hoping are covered, right? Any other way we can get them engaged to get some data that isn't just straight opens. Now, the funny thing about this is those percentages are still going to feel super low, right? So don't get in your head that like, ooh, only 2% or only 5% or only 8% actually did anything. So for our most recent launch, we had 320 people RSVP to the masterclass. We personally call everybody who's registered to see if they're going to attend. We were only able to get, I believe it ended up being like 40 people to verbally commit that they were going to be on that masterclass. And we ended up with, I think, 86
Yeah, it
actually
was in
show.
the high 80s. Yeah.
Yeah. 86 actually showed. So you can see it was like 100% more than verbally told us, like answered their phone and or RSVP'd yes in another manner, whether it was like a DM or something else. So don't let that number necessarily get in your head, but you want to be engaging and you want people to engage back. I have some
I
thoughts on that too, but I'm curious, how would you evaluate if it is healthy or not?
Yeah. So when we're talking about healthy, like you said, that they're engaging for sure. Honestly, like how quickly they engage or respond to what you're posting out there, right? And this could go if you're going on lives, on IG lives, and people are engaging on that or whatever that is. If you're a healthy pipeline, are people sending you referrals? They're actually responding to your emails because they are so engaged and so thankful for the value that you're providing. So all of that is obviously in engagement. Another healthy pipeline thing is people are not unsubscribing very
Yes.
consistently from you. They're not DNCing your text messages that are being sent out. So that would be definitely ways that I would say these are healthy people. I mean, they're probably inviting or referring other people to join
Oh,
your network. They're probably recommending you. That would be considered healthy. But I did want to point out that you mentioned that we call people who are registered for a live. And this is so important. Again, I don't know how many times I have received a phone call that wasn't a spam call lately. But also, how many times has anyone ever received a confirmation call for attending a live event?
I
And
want
that,
to, but I do want to give a caveat to this, and it was kind of what I was going to say is that when we're doing these things, it's out of service.
Mhm,
So we're not calling to be like, are you coming to our live?
mhm.
Our scripting for our person who is doing the calling, which Judy has created, is very intentional. So will you
Which you're
talk?
gonna want to write this down if you are listening.
Yeah. Judy, do you want to walk through it since you created the scripts?
I can if you want me to. Let's see if I can remember. No, I'm just kidding. We have a team, so I don't do a lot of these calls
I was
anymore.
gonna say, I'm
But
in
it's
like
script.
50. I could say, first of all, we want to congratulate them for registering. We want to let them know that there's a limited number of people who are able to be on the call live, which at the time that the script was written was very true because we had not paid for the bigger Zoom room. So we literally had 100 seats. Now we have more, but it still is given the opportunity to like interact one-on-one with our client, which is a very rare occurrence. Not one-on-one, but ask questions to him. We then ask them specifically, do you have any questions you're hoping are going to be answered during this masterclass? Because we like to notate them ahead of time to allow for either the presentation to shift to answer them, or we have a Q&A section at the end and your question gets bumped up, right?
Mhm.
People are so excited at the idea that we care enough about what's going to be covered because how many masterclasses have you been to that are just a straight sales pitch?
Mhm.
Way too
Yeah,
many.
like all of them. I mean, truthfully, they all are a sales pitch, but how many
Yes.
are straight? Like they let it be known. How many let
Yes.
it be known that it's a straight sales pitch, like you said? Like 95% of them for sure. Like Greta said, it's truthfully because the clients that we work with, like if you're in this business and you're doing launches and you're providing services, especially a lot of ours are high ticket people, anything over a 7K typically are people, that we're working with, like that's your offer, right? A 7K program or whatever it is. You're trying to provide them value, right? So it's the same thing of marketing, right? The jab, 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 right? Hook, right? Like you are giving, you're giving, you're giving, you're giving. I think I read at I was actually watching an interview with Simon Sinek, and he's like, how many people go into giving a TEDx speech and it's all about them? They walk on and they're giving their credentials, and it's like those people don't care about, it's about them. So we're making it about them. This is your night. This is your time. They feel important. They feel like they're going to get, and they're going to
They
get
do.
something by coming, whether it's a free event or a paid one. They feel like, oh, I have a reason to be there, right? I have a reason to be there because my question is going to get answered. How thoughtful of this person to give me a personalized phone call. And we call them out during the lives. We'll say, hey, so and so, I think this is your question. I think I see you on. So if you want to expand on this, but this is the question that you had. So if you want to expand on it, feel free to hop in and we are able to have those conversations because especially if you're doing a live webinar, it should be very interactive. It gives you, and it also leads up to building your brand, right? Like building like who you are, because a lot of people who are on here, like your brand is you. And when you can have those genuine conversations, then it really shows for everyone else who's on that call. So when you go for the close, it does help you for sure.
Yeah. And I would say, like, as we think about not just that call, like, obviously, we're intentional, not just calling to confirm people, we're intentional with everything. And it's been super fun to watch play out because I actually just revamped our post live email and text sequence. And to watch the comments and the responses in text message come through. Not that our original stuff was bad. I actually just added in more touch points that were text message based specifically because we had been getting really good responses to our text messages. Again, I'm evaluating constantly what's working. So I upped the number of text messages that were going out. And I also did make it way more them focused, right? Have you started on any of the action steps we provided afterwards? If you don't remember what they are or you can't, like you haven't seen it, just reply back and I'm happy to send them back over to you, right? And so first of all, they've already had an experience with our client where he was invested in them. He wanted to answer their question and he was very honest that he wants to see them be successful. He also showcased that this is a reality, that he gets text messages all the time from people who are sharing their success stories and he genuinely gets excited. So then when we're texting them to say, have you got started? Is there anything we can celebrate? They're thinking back to that night, right? They want to be the next text message that's like, yeah, I did like the simple thing that you said that I should do, and I've already done X, Y, and Z more in business. Awesome. Like, that's so exciting. Could you imagine what it would be like if you were working with Dr. Hauer more regularly, right?
I think that goes back to the point, Greta, of you stating earlier, nurturing them, right? So, like, just because they're not responding to your text messages, maybe doesn't mean that they're not healthy either. So, I want to point that out. It may just mean that they just need a little more from
Mhm.
you. It's not that they aren't healthy, it's just maybe you aren't engaging them enough to
Yeah.
allow them to engage. So I think that's another thing because people come in and they try to change too many things. We waited to change that sequence until like after our
This was
third
our
live, right?
fourth.
Yeah, like our fourth live. So
Mhm.
like after the third one, then it's like, okay, well, we're gonna make the change now. So don't try to, just because you haven't been, don't try to, make those changes. And that's where Greta does a really good job with our clients, where she evaluates all of the data and she'll pinpoint this is exactly where you need to work on. The same thing of like if you were an athlete and you had a trainer and they were watching you practice, or they were watching your game tape and they were like, oh, this is definitely where we need to extend, or where you need to work a little better. We're able to pinpoint that through in your launch.
Yeah. And the one thing I will consistently say to people is it can be really easy to think like if you have a quote unquote unsuccessful launch, you just have to scrap it and start all over. I would say don't scrap it to start. Figure out your biggest needle mover that you can do differently, whether that's like you realize you do actually have to post more than 2 times a week and you're going to try 3 this time, but pick 1 to 2 variables that are very easily measured. Because even with this next one, we had like, I think 4 variables we were thinking of changing. And I was like, let's pick 2 because we're not going to know what actually yielded the success if we change all of this, and vice versa. We had contemplated like bumping the price point. Well, what if it would have been really successful and we would have sold more seats, but then we bumped the price point? We don't know what the implication of that was. So just be conscious that like when you're making tweaks and you're trying to increase the health of your pipeline, know how many variables you're working with. And this goes back to how often you're posting. When you have links in your email, aim to have one. I know it sounds hard, but aim to have one link, because then you know, ooh, a book a call link doesn't work there. Can I send them to a testimonial page instead? right? But if you have a testimonial and a book a call link and you don't have a robust software that can pinpoint the two links for you, it just gives you a click through percentage in general. You're not going to know even which website they went to. Now, if you're using like Active Campaign, put two, because you can see, oh, they didn't click on book a call, they just went to testimonial. I probably should include a book a call link on my testimonial page, right?
Yeah, and this goes back to even like we talked about this 2 episodes ago, where go into other people's funnels, right? But
Yeah.
also know that other people's are always testing their email. They're testing theirs just as much as you are. So I know we look up to all of these people, and Greta and I have worked with 7-figure, 8-figure people who have done launches, and they are always trying for bigger and better, right? They're always trying to get bigger and better and always trying to enhance it, even though they're making millions. They know that they're like, if they change something and tweaked it to 1%, right? Like
Yeah.
1% when you're making millions is a lot more to gain if you're just, doing little tweaks here and there. So go in again, make sure that you are always, I would say, one thing that Greta and I are great at and when you work with us is that we consistently do launches for multiple clients and multiple industries, and we're always actively learning. And if there is someone that is doing a launch, I guarantee we've been in their campaign.
Maybe
So,
more than once, because I'm
yeah.
seeing the big tweak.
Yeah, true, more than once. So, but yeah, I mean, this conversation has been amazing, and we hope that you guys were able to take a couple things from that. Again, start small. Don't take up too much time trying to overhaul your like. Don't go to your poor team and be like, "Hey, we're changing every email and every text message that we're ever going to send out and every landing page." Try to pick little things here and there and test them out, and again, measure what you're doing, measure the time of day you're doing it, measure how often you're doing it. And again, Greta said you'll have that checklist to go off of hey, this is where I start, just to see if I have a robust, healthy pipeline.
Absolutely. And then I would just say, as you're going through those checklists, be asking yourself, am I nurturing my audience? Am I providing value? Am I approaching this from what are they getting out of it as opposed to what am I giving them? Because you will have engaged people when you come off as authentic, as somebody who wants to help, when you care about them as humans, not even to say like, I'm the solution for you, but like, I'd love to be a part of the solution for you, right? And so just ask yourself a question, enter your own funnel and like go through and think about your emails. You obviously created this product because it probably serves a version of you from the past. Is that what you needed to hear at that time? Right? And so when you think about a healthy pipeline, I would honestly say the best measuring stick is like, do you feel like you're serving your audience and they're receiving it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll know that afterward. I mean, at the end of every live, if you're not getting like or, like, thank you so much or whatever, then
Or people who won't leave.
yeah, or people who won't leave, and you're like, we're done, thank you. It's 10 p.m. You can go home now. um, and we'll also have some tips. Feel free again, if you guys send us any messages, that gives us great ideas. We love engaging as well. So feel free to ask us any questions about a recent launch you've had or one that you have coming up. We'd love to chat about it. Obviously, we love to chat about anything launches. Next episode, though, is one of Greta's other favorites. Because she has many, many, many favorites, but is technology, right? Like having tech knowledge. So these are things that sabotage launches, are not having the correct technology in place or underutilizing the technology you have. I see so many of you buying systems and like high level, like, right, like we have high level that we use for a lot of our clients. And you're not utilizing everything that you can. You're like, but I'm going to build the website over here. And it's like, okay, well, we can do that. Or I'm going to use this scheduling software when it's like, it's already in here. So finding that and making it, again, if you're with the data, to go back to the data, which is why Greta loves technology, is because it provides you with the data that you need to make decisions, make informed decisions about your launch and how to service your clients.
Awesome. So till next time.
Bye.
Bye. That's a wrap on today's episode. I hope this gave you some clarity and, more importantly, the confidence to simplify and scale your business without adding to your plate. Before you go, I have a quick favor to ask. Leave a quick review and get a coffee on us. Reviews help more business owners like you find the podcast, and we love reaching them. As a thank you, each week we'll randomly pick a reviewer to win a coffee on us. Starbucks or Dunkin', you pick. Just leave a review, screenshot it, and send it to us on IG at Bringing Simplicity to Enter. And if you could use more simplicity in your biz, be sure to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. That's it for today. Thanks for hanging out with us. Talk to you next week.